I truly value craftsmanship, which is the analog side of things. And I also still want to push the envelope on the innovative side of things. So I want to support and contribute to a world where we continue to be able to make the same choices that we do right now. I choose this shirt and this jacket because it looks good. It's sustainable fabric. It's going to last a long time. It's well tailored. All the things that normally go into it. It should then also offer functionality that you do not yet realize.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 94 of the Andrew Deitch podcast. I'm here in sunny Sancti Petri, which is on the southwest coast of Spain. I'm here with my brother visiting my lovely former host family that I lived with 2 years ago. And it's amazing to be back here. To be honest, I didn't think I would ever be back in this tiny little town, but it's amazing to be in a small town across the world with familiar faces, awesome food, great conversations, and fantastic weather. And life's pretty good right now, not gonna lie, except that I don't have Wi-Fi, and my phone does not have good enough data to use as a hotspot. So I'm probably gonna be posting this from my next Airbnb in Budapest, sending Andrew from the future the best of luck in that endeavor. But I am planning on doing an episode all about our trip, so I'll save the updates for a later time. But if this is your first time listening to the podcast, I want to thank you, first of all, for checking it out. It really means a lot that my voice is traveling through your eardrums right now. And also, fun fact, the podcast is now more than a week long. Like, if you started playing the podcast right now from the very beginning, and you kept it playing for 24 hours a day, you wouldn't reach the end until 7 days later. Pretty crazy, right? And if you don't know already, my show is all about having fascinating conversations with people who are changing the world. And that statement seems kind of cliche, but my guest today is truly doing her part to change the world and how we interact with it for the better. So just to give you a little background story on the time right before this podcast, this was recorded back in May. A few days before, I was in Las Vegas recording an episode with Megan May. She was on episode 91, who, by the way, literally had just met in person thanks to Richard Corbett from episode 47. And on the way to the bus station, Megan's husband mentioned that while I was out in LA, I should see if I could record with this super interesting lady that they knew out in LA. And he told me a little bit about her, and I told him to, see if he could make the connection. And fast forward to a few days later, and I was staying with my friend Ashlyn Showalter in West Hollywood. She was on episode 2 of the podcast, and she and her boyfriend Chad, who was my guest on the last episode of the podcast, had just left for out of town. And she'd let me use her car for the rest of the trip. So right after they left, I fought the downtown LA traffic to meet this mystery woman for the very first time at her beautiful high-rise apartment. And that is where I met my guest for today's episode, Arden Ash. And I'm not joking when I say that she might be one of the most fascinating and multifaceted people I've met through the podcast. She's an interactive design and technology artist, an art director, fashion photographer, and she's also a published author. She's got 13 patents, and she was an official photographer, and she wrote articles for the Radiohead In Rainbows tour. She's also worked with tons of top companies, including Technicolor, American Idol, Nestle, Earthlink, Ticketmaster, and Toyota. And she's extremely passionate about psychology and science. She's constantly working to fuse those into her art. And basically, she just combines her creative side with her crazy technology and science side to form a secret weapon that anyone would love to work with. Anyways, I could totally brag on her for a very long time, but I'm just going to let you hear it from herself. So without any further ado, please welcome the brilliant and lovely Arden Ash. Here we go.
Okay.
The magic button has been pushed.
Yay.
All right, so Arden Ash. Am I saying everything correctly?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's a pretty easy name. I didn't think I was going to mess it up.
Yeah, it's only 3 letters at the end.
Yeah, that's pretty simple. There's a place. Do you guys have Arden's Gardens out here? Do you know what that is?
No, but I wanted to name one of my ideas Arden's Garden, and somebody actually had it. Is it a juice place?
Yeah, it's in Atlanta.
Yeah. So Okay.
That's super
yeah,
funny.
there's a video game that I came up with for women like 15 years ago. And I wanted to call it Arden's Garden because that's where everybody would start the game in a garden, but different gardens all over the world. So I looked it up and I was like, well, who's got Arden's Gardens?
These jerks. They stole it.
Please tell me it's a good juice place.
It is a good juice place.
Okay,
It's
good.
nice. It's really good. I don't know if it's as good as an LA juice place, but there's a lot of juice places around here.
I don't know. If you say it's good, that's good enough for me.
Yes. It's well respected, I would say.
Yay.
It's like the go-to.
As long as it's living up to the name. There's
Yes.
there's a lot of weight to carry with that name.
Yes. That's awesome. All right. So for people listening that have no idea what's going on, I am in Arden's very beautiful, very awesome apartment
Thank
in
you.
the heart of downtown LA. Is that
It
an
really
accurate
is.
statement?
Yes, it's in the financial district.
Yeah. I was going to say, it didn't feel like LA when I was like walking around on the streets.
When I first moved here 11 years ago, we called it New York Light. At least this particular building.
That's kind of the vibe that I got. Like lots of suits and people wearing like ties and stuff.
Well, you're right across the street from One Wilshire, which is the hub for the internet in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And across the street there is the IRS.
Oh, wow.
Woohoo!
That's fun.
Yeah,
Is that kind of scary?
sometimes. You just need to live your life true to your word, and everything's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. Yeah, it's just like Big Brother kind of like peeping in your window.
Yeah,
though.
they don't really have time.
Good. Yeah, I was gonna say they've got a
Yeah,
lot
they have
bigger
bigger
fish to fry.
fish to fry.
Definitely. All right, cool. So Arden, we kind of like went over this, but I don't know everything about you, and we just met like
Right.
2 seconds ago.
This is very true. We did.
We really did. And shout out to Megan May, who I had on the podcast.
Who we love.
We love dearly.
And her
Awesome
husband,
person.
Brian.
But so I'm hanging out with Arden, and we really don't know each other. So
No.
tell me, like, give me some like backstory, but also like, if you had to describe yourself, if you're on an elevator and people are like, oh, cool, what do you do? Like, oh, cool, yeah, I'm Arden. What do you do? What do you say?
The first thing I say is that I'm an artist. I'm first and foremost an artist. It's just that my media aren't just paints and pixels. It's also psychology and computer science, that sort of thing. It's an amalgamation because I have one foot in science and one foot in art. So the fusing of those things together is
That's
really what
interesting.
I'm all about.
I like that. That's really cool. And so
kinda
then
said
people
that
on the
already.
elevator are like, whoa. They're like, I work at Starbucks.
I try to make it sound as spiffy as possible. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So
So that still tells you nothing, right?
right? Yeah, because I'm still like confused. But at the same time, then I'm like, whoa. I really like that though, because when you say the word artist, like people traditionally think of like a painter or a
Right.
sculptor or
Right.
like whatever, but it's very subjective.
And I come from a family of artists.
Really?
But I also come from, all right. Well, I have to give
Some
credit where
background.
credit is due. My mother and father both worked for Walt himself.
Wow.
My mother was hired out of Art Center. She studied advertising and fashion design at Art Center, and Walt came in and hired her. And he actually wanted her to start early.
Like
and
hand selected?
hand selected.
Wow.
And wanted her to start before she actually graduated. And she said, I'm sorry, Mr. Disney, I really want to finish my degree, and then I will be happy to come to work for you.
Wow.
And then that's where she met my father. So my mother was one of the designers of New Orleans Square, and my father was one of the architects on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Whoa.
And he had a few patents, so of course I had to get a few patents. I think he had like 2 or 3. And thanks to Technicolor, with whom I have had the pleasure of working, I have 13.
13 patents?
Yes.
That's awesome.
I'm very excited about that. It's one of the things there are 2 things that I really am proud of as far as what I've accomplished. Those patents, because they are my passion as far as the thinking that goes into the creativity of fusing technology and art. And the other is my photography. I'm really working on pushing the envelope, not with necessarily the technique, but the stories that I tell and how it affects society.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Wait, so to back up, so your mom and dad both work for Disney.
Yes.
Did they continue to work for Disney?
No. They helped build the park or design the park.
Disneyland in California.
Disneyland in California, Anaheim.
Yes, I've never been there actually. I've only been to World. I've only been to Disney World.
I have not. I've only been to Disney World and only in the hotel because I was doing a show or helping out on the AV side of a show once. So really haven't been to Disney World. I need to.
It's okay. They're on the opposite sides.
My parents actually modeled for the ride in Pirates of the Caribbean. They'd run out of models and to grab people during their lunch hours and have them sit to be models. So my parents are sprinkled throughout. Or actually parts of my parents are sprinkled throughout Pirates of the Caribbean.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. That's so awesome. I've never even thought about that being a thing, but that makes total sense.
Right?
They would need extra models and stuff to base the characters off of. That's really cool.
Yes.
So you naturally growing up, you saw your parents in that world, and were you like, oh my gosh, I want to do this, or was it?
I wanted to become an architect, and my mother said, oh, absolutely not. You'll never have work. And I was like, what? So I was always creative. My grandmother was actually an elected official, and she would always, I only mention that because she always had paper. She always had tons of paper and would bring paper over, and I'd draw or construct things, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was one of those kids that didn't actually, I learned to use an X-Acto knife probably before I learned to use scissors.
That's awesome.
And
it's more effective for certain things.
It is.
That's for sure.
Yes, I learned to be very careful. Mm-hmm. Didn't slice off anything until I worked for Nestle way longer after.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's convenient.
Yeah. You know what? I grew up in a very creative household. We actually I grew up driving the freeways in the back seat because I was little. Mm-hmm. And my mother would point at billboards and she'd ask us immediately, does that work? Do you get it? Because she explained to us very early on, if it doesn't actually translate, the message doesn't translate within 30 seconds or less, you've lost your audience. And look at how fast we're driving by. So immediately, one, I was learning how to read the board, and two, I was learning how to translate it. So it really got into my upbringing and into my cells.
That's fascinating. I've always been into that kind of stuff too, because growing up, my mom would get me to do these focus groups and study groups where they would bring you in and pay you in either money or toys to answer questions about different products. So they were literally testing is this toy fun? They would get kids together, they'd pay the parents, and they would give kids free toys.
So you were one of the kids
I was one of the kids that got to do this. And my mom would sign me up for all these things. And to this day, I still do some of them. It's actually kind of fun.
It is.
You're signed up in this list in this system, and they call you when your demographic is needed for a study or whatever. It's pretty fun. But I was always fascinated by that because I always I think a lot of the kids in those didn't really think about what they were saying or doing. But that was one thing that always fascinated me was how much they cared about all these weird questions. Or I did one for
you never know.
Yeah,
it's all about finding, I'm sorry to interrupt, it's all about finding out that little nuance so that they understand better how to sell that product or how to appeal to this audience, or if this is really the right audience and all of that stuff.
And one time, not to get too deep down this rabbit hole, but one time I was in a focus group for cereal, for Apple Jacks cereal. And the thing about Apple Jacks is that it doesn't taste like apples, right?
No, it's
kind of it's like cinnamon, right? It's kind of like cinnamon apples. It's like cinnamon apples. And that was one of the things in the focus group was this, they were asking people had you ever tried it before? Why hadn't you ever tried it before? And this one kid in particular was I never tried it before because I don't like apples, but I really like this cereal.
Oh, interesting.
And they were whoa. And they were explain, go on, elaborate. And this kid was brilliant. And he came up with, they were so how do you think you could portray that to someone else? How would you, if you were in our shoes, what would you say to make it And he came
How
up
would
with
you tell another little kid about this?
He came up with this brilliant idea okay, so like in a nutshell, he was like, maybe the commercial's like, there's like a cinnamon guy and like an apple guy, and the apple guy is like a bad guy, and the cinnamon guy is like the good guy.
Oh my gosh.
And they have a race to the cereal bowl or something, and the cinnamon guy always wins, so it always tastes like cinnamon or whatever.
That's a great idea.
And it became their ad campaign for years. I swear to God.
This kid get extra toys, I hope?
I don't know, but when you sign into those things, you're basically giving up
all of your intellectual property.
Yep, and that when I first saw that commercial, I flipped out. I was like, Mom! I was in the focus group! Yeah, and like, to be honest, when I was listening to his idea, I kind of thought it was kind of silly. I'm like, I don't know if that would work. But they used it, and they did it, and it totally worked. And it was their ad campaign for years and years and years. And I always thought that was the craziest thing. And even the funniest thing was, he was the cinnamon was the cinnamon. He was like a Jamaican cinnamon. The kid even said that.
Really?
Literally, the kid wrote their whole ad campaign.
This kid is having a wonderful adult life.
I hope so too.
Of brilliance and creativity.
Yeah, and that seems like a crazy story, but I swear to God, it's 100% true.
I believe you.
It was absolutely nuts. But I remember.
You couldn't make that up.
I know, right?
Well, I mean, you could.
I could, but it'd be so weird and so random to like bring up.
Yeah.
I've never shared this on the podcast before, so like, what if every episode I told that story was like totally fake or something? No, but like that stuff always fascinated me too. Because like I don't know, I guess going to those things kind of like made me think more about what the advertising was and stuff like that.
Right.
It's fascinating.
So it just always became interesting to me, and then I did lots of art growing up.
What kinds of art? Like drawing and
Well,
painting,
I did a lot
traditional?
of drawing, and then I found my way to watercolors. My mother is more of a gouache artist, and she's truly an illustrator. She's a brilliant, beautiful illustrator. And I really love watercolors. And I also started off wanting to be a marine biologist. And save the oceans, save the dolphins, save all of that. Which I still want to do.
Yeah.
It's just that once I found out that, half your life was spent on the boat and the other half was raising money to spend it on the boat, I was like, okay, that's not for me. Yeah. Let me figure out other ways of continuing to help. Mm-hmm. And
you can be one of the contributors to the boat.
Exactly.
Maybe even more useful that way.
Yeah. So anyway, I did a lot of painting, and then when I got into college, I did the long route. I got into Art Center, and then I came home, and my parents were like, "Well, good, you got in. Now you need to figure out how to pay for it." I was like, "What?" Shoot, that's a really expensive school.
That's a good question.
I guess I'm going to go to JC, and then when I earn enough money, I'm going to go get a bachelor in science because I can always get back to the art. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. And thankfully, as luck would have it, I grew up near JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which was part of NASA, which is part of NASA.
Yeah.
And they had an explorer group, which is part of the Boy Scouts.
Huh.
And after school,
I've never heard of that, and I was in Boy Scouts. That's weird.
Explorers are it's under the umbrella of Boy Scouts.
Because there's like a lot of people don't know that, but there's like other little subgroups in Boy Scouts. Like there's like the Sea Scouts, and there's like the all types of different like.
And I was a miserable Girl Scout, so this made a whole lot more sense.
That's awesome.
So anyway, my friends were always trying to get me to go to this. They had it over at JPL, and the reason this is a very important thing because this ended up shaping the rest of my life, or this opportunity shaped. Yeah. So finally, it came to a Thursday night when my friends knew, okay, we don't have a test tomorrow. You don't have a reason to stay home and study. You are coming to the post, and I was like, okay. You're right. I don't have. Okay, I'm coming. And I went, and it was phenomenal because the people in it, the people that were advising and helping, and every week they would have, physicists and engineers and the people that worked on the telescopes. I'm probably saying that wrong, but
that makes sense to me.
They come in and give these brilliant lectures about what they were currently working on.
Wow.
And
it was still like students, like young people?
All of us were just high schoolers.
Huh.
And And, this brilliant knowledge being waved over me and so many terms I did not know. You listen to this often enough, you start learning things.
Totally.
And still, even if you listen to something for an hour that maybe you only understand 30 to 40%, you're still gaining something that you never knew. And your mind is expanding. And when I go there, one of my friends he's like, oh, I'll join you in a minute. I'm playing chess with somebody in Australia. And I said, huh? And this was, we've progressed a few years.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
And
I've heard of playing chess on the internet before.
Yeah, well, this
online games, something along those lines.
Well, this was still in 1994. This was kind of huge.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? You're
That was
lying.
a good year. That was a good year. It was the year I was born.
Oh, well, there you go. It was not the year I was born.
It's okay. It's all good.
That was a very good year. I'm glad you're here. You wouldn't be here otherwise.
No. It's a great year. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yes.
We'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Andrew's mom and dad.
Right. But so you were saying this guy was playing chess online, and it was
I was like, what?
Yeah.
So he said, it's through this like DARPA net. And I was like, okay, you're going to have to explain this. So we walked to the post. He explained it. I was like, this is awesome. And, we learned how to solder MOSFETs. And we did high-altitude experimental launches in the desert, which is the only kind of camping I had ever done.
That's awesome.
With all of our laptops and crazy things. So anyway, I eventually got older, and they asked me to be an advisor, probably because I was like the only girl who got to that age and still was sticking with it, and they needed another woman. I was like, okay, sure. And it just forever changed me. They did space camp. It was called Space Sets, and 300 kids would spend the weekend designing space settlements for honor around the planet Mars and working with engineers all weekend from Boeing and all, numerous places. And I confuse the made-up names with the real names, so I'm not going to say anymore. But real facts. And once I had actually graduated from university, because I left the JC and I went to UCLA and got my degree in cognitive science.
Whoa.
So human-computer interaction was sort of my thing. So I got to be one of the speakers or experts. I'm saying that you can't see it, but I'm doing the air quotes, experts on human-computer interaction for one of these space sets. And it just felt so neat to be a part of it. And I'll go back to the internet for a second. So that concept just hit me because I grew up, I love you, Mom, kind of sheltered. And not a lot, I had been to England and because that's where my father was from, but not throughout the United States. And I understood I was raised to be a global citizen, but I really hadn't experienced it. And this was probably the least expensive way of experiencing the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to find out more about this. And my friends at JPL said, okay, we start earning money. Let's get you on a computer. So my first computer was an Apple, and it had, it was one of the first ones. These things are pointless to bring up.
No, but that's actually really interesting to me because I'm kind of like I'm always watching YouTube videos about all the latest, whatever, like the latest technology and phones and computers and stuff. So it's always really cool to go back and, I have a friend who, he is always telling me about these, like what they had to do to get an email and all this stuff back in the day. Like,
it's true.
It literally took days to get like emails and stuff and like the actual physical framework of the internet. Because today we don't think about that type of stuff.
Not really. And I watched it from almost the beginning. I started with little black box terminals, and you would telnet into different areas where you could talk to people from different parts of the world. And I had friends in Canada and friends in Australia and friends in Germany, and I would just be different people and discover, talk to people in different cultures and find out about their opinions of the world and what it's like. And I don't know how I carried my GPA, because I had a 4.0 and still spent 6 hours a day on the internet.
Wow.
And I don't know how I did that. I'm grateful, but I have no idea. I couldn't do it now.
And so you were communicating with these people. How did you even discover them? Like, what was there like, how did you get connected with these people?
There were chat rooms. I mean,
So
we didn't have browsers.
Yeah.
Yet. But you would find out, telnet here, and you just try different things, and you actually ended up learning Unix a little bit. And
That's
so
really cool.
I ended up really loving the internet because it was this whole world of discovery. It was like living at my parents', but having my own apartment and traveling the world all through this tiny little box.
Yeah. And that's what like phones are for kids these days. It's like they have these internet
opens up the
friends.
entire world.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And I wanted to be a part of that. I just wanted everything to do with that. So I ended up working for a .com during the .com boom. You won't have heard of it. It was called City Search. It eventually was purchased by Ticketmaster.
Wow.
And
I've heard of that.
Yeah, you've probably heard of that one. And it was really, I also worked for a place called Earthlink, which.
Yeah, I have heard of that.
You've heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my first job.
Back in the day.
Yeah. So.
I remember, didn't they like, it was something to do with like, not dial up, but it was like, what was the...
It was an internet service provider.
Yes. It was...
There was like AOL and there was...
No, because I remember getting like CDs in the mail from like AOL, and like I would see stuff from like Earthlink or whatever.
How old were you? 2?
I don't know. I was pretty young.
Because that was 1997 for me, so that you would have been 3.
No, but I remember the first time I like realized that because when I was younger, again, like kind of sheltered, did you ever hear about like Veggie Tales? You know what Veggie Tales are?
I know exactly what Veggie Tales are.
Veggie Tales. So I was obsessed with like Veggie Tales, and Larry Boy was like the superhero of Veggie Tales.
Not to that degree, but
Larry Boy, you could go to like VeggieTales.com and you could play like the Larry Boy like game online.
Wow.
And like something clicked in my brain, right? And something because you had to like. I remember I was trying to play it at my grandma's house and I couldn't because her computer was like awful and their connection was terrible.
The fact that your grandmother had a computer, you need to give the woman props.
Totally. But it was literally like my dad bought it for her and like taught her how to like send an email or whatever.
That's so fab.
Yeah, it was great. We actually have like home videos from when they like gave her the computer for Christmas. It's great. But I remember something clicked in my brain where I was like, wait a second. If there's LarryBoy.com, I wonder if there's like PowerRangers.com, or if there's like,
and then you start searching.
This.com, and and I was like,
and the discovery.
I was like, Dad, do you think that there's like blah blah blah.com or like this.com, and I didn't really realize like what that meant or what that was, but it like clicked in my brain that whoa, if this exists on the internet, then there's probably a million other crazy cool things on the internet too.
And as your world started to open on the other side, everybody was also trying to feed the internet and build that structure so that you could find those things that didn't yet exist there. Yeah.
Like I've heard of like people that I can't remember where I heard about this. It might have been on a podcast or something. Someone made like LeBronJames.com or whatever, and it was just a fan site. He just created it, and then like eventually LeBron James like bought him out or whatever. And it's just like these people that were just wanting to feed that or whatever. Like, well, I went to LeBronJames.com and didn't find anything, and I love LeBron James, so I'm gonna make LeBronJames.com.
It was we called it the Wild West. It was a new frontier, and I remember I was working for Earthlink, and then I went to City Search, and my parents were like, "What do you do? What are you doing?
Yeah.
How are you earning money? What is this?" And you're always on that machine, and
you're addicted.
And then the first time that a commercial came on television and actually said .com, I felt so legitimized and validated. I was like,
right?
oh my gosh, fine. See, this is what I'm working on. This world, this totally different world. Mm-hmm. It's not a waste of time. I swear to you.
It's like that video where they're like on the news and they're like, we have an email or something. They're like, it's blah, blah, blah. And then the A with the circle, blah, dot.
Yeah.
Period com or something like that. They have no idea what they're even talking about.
Which is, okay, so this is actually kind of appropriate and hopefully interesting for your podcast.
I'm sure.
That whole feeling, that click for you and that click for me, gave me the bug, and suddenly it's not just, so now we have a whole world that's predominated by .coms. We've built that. Mm-hmm. What's next? Yeah. So because I started off in startups, I have always been about innovation, pushing the envelope. What's next?
Being on that bleeding edge, that cutting edge.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's particularly interesting now because I truly value craftsmanship, which is the analog side of things. And I also still want to push the envelope on the innovative side of things. Mm-hmm. So for a while I was really into wearable technology. And then I realized Internet of Things is probably more interesting to me. Not that wearable isn't. It's just that I want to live in a world where we continue to I want to support and contribute to a world where we continue to be able to make the same choices that we do right now. I choose this shirt and this jacket because it looks good. It's sustainable fabric. It's going to last a long time. It's well tailored. All of the things, the style, all the things that normally go into it, and it provides coverage and shelter for my body or warmth for my body. It should then also offer information, or it should offer functionality that you do not yet realize. So the things in your world, the furniture that you choose, nothing should change about how you select things. But the things that surround your environment should offer you additional functionality in addition to what it already does. Does that make sense?
Totally. Because I'm into that kind of stuff, and I think a lot of people like my mom would be like, what do you mean? Like, what kind of a functionality could a couch give you? Or like, what functionality could your belt give you? Or whatever. But once you kind of like tap into that other thing, and you because even 10 years ago we couldn't imagine what our phones could even do. Right. It can do everything. So like it can become anything. It can. In the beginning, it was all about like goofy, like, I can fake drink a beer out of my iPhone or whatever. Like the goofy, stupid stuff. But then it became truly useful. Now it helps you meditate. Now it helps you actually do your banking and write invoices. And it helps, there's apps to help you use it less. And, all this stuff. And to remind you to get up and walk around the room. Literally. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And like even just driving here today, I was thinking about how crazy my phone is, that I was able to be in a city that I'd never been in and never driven here. I've never and it was able to tell me like which lane to get in. Just all that kind of stuff, the GPS on my phone. It's like, how the heck would I have even tried to get to this apartment this morning if I didn't have this thing? It would have been impossible. Like, I wouldn't, it would have just been too challenging. There was something called Thomas Brothers that we all used to use. I don't even know what that is. Oh my God. What's Thomas Brothers? Thomas Brothers was a great big map book that went in the little pocket of your door in your car, and like an atlas. When you had to figure out where you were going, you had to read the maps, and it would go on for pages, and it would say L5, and you'd have to go to L5 and then continue your route, and you had to write down your route. It's so much better now. Yeah. Google Maps, God bless it. Yep. Yeah. I was like on that. I was in that point where like my parents, when we went on road trips, they would bring the book, but they also would like print out like MapQuest or whatever. I did that for a little while, and isn't it nice that we don't have to do that? Yeah, it's amazing. Because you can choose to like go somewhere else if you want to afterwards or whatever. So there's tons of capability and functionality that happens on the phone, and that's why there's also been like its own app revolution. Of course. But like you said, I don't want to be tethered to this. Exactly. I want to be out and about. What you and I are doing
is prehistoric. We're having a conversation. We're getting to know each other. We're communicating. And there's much more happening in this room than just the words that we're speaking. You know, when you talk to somebody, there are the different levels of speech. You know, you communicate via writing. And it only conveys so much and has lots of areas where it can be misperceived.
Definitely.
Or misunderstood. Then you have telephone calls. And it's better because I can hear the tonality in the voice.
And you can almost picture them.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know.
But you can't.
Right. Because there are subtleties in our facial expressions and how we move our hands and how we're actually sitting or standing and our postures and things like that. Then you actually sit down with somebody and you're face to face, or you stand with somebody and you're face to face. You get all of that information. That's why I'm saying there's so much more information in the words that we speak. And that's why we can only get so much from the phone, but how awesome would it be if, like, my drapes, my couch, the cabinet, the wall, the windows, and all these other things had more functionality than you are able to sit. It adorns and shutters out light. It lets light through if it actually evoked some other functionality. I've done 2 tech talks for little girls, and in one of them, well, actually in both of them, but in one of them it was really awesome. And these are like 4-year-olds to 11-year-old girls. And I suggested to them to imagine their bedrooms and imagine all the things in their bedroom and start assigning functionality. Give those things in their bedrooms. You know, you have a lamp. You turn it on, it lights up the room. You turn it off, it's no longer lighting up the room. What else could it do? And this one little girl, they came up with phenomenal ideas. And this is why I want people to really start thinking about this. And this is why I think this is the next area. She came up to me and she's like, so I have an idea. So when I lay in my bed, the bed will notice that I am laying in the bed because of my weight. And then
it knows it's her.
It knows it's me. Well, I think I suggested the weight part. I'm not sure. Whatever. I'll give it to her.
Yeah.
She came up with this brilliant idea. She said, I push a button on my bedpost and it tells me a bedtime story. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so great.
Genius.
How awesome would it be if, you know, you laid down and then it noticed and then it read you the bedtime story or whatever. But isn't that a wonderful idea? Then I just imagine a world where the things around us offer us more than what they do right now. But the bed doesn't change.
Yes.
It's still a place for you to lay your head and rest yourself for a night.
I love that. Yeah, because like you said in the beginning, you kind of are like pairing the psychological side with the tech side, with the artistic side. And that's extremely important because I think when you give like your standard quote unquote like tech nerd a problem, he's going to solve it in a way that might not take into consideration those things. Like for example, like you said, the wearable technology, the biggest problem with a lot of those Android Wear watches or whatever was that they were ugly as sin. Like they were so gross to wear on your wrist every single day.
I'm not going to argue.
No, like they were ugly. And that's why they partnered with strategic partners now. Like they've got like Michael Kors and Fossil and whatever that are creating like Android Wear watches that look not as bad and better. And like that was, I think, the thing that like separated the Apple Watch was that like people were like, this isn't nearly as ugly. Like it actually has some kind of quirkiness and coolness to it, and people were down to wear it. Because once you're talking about something that you're wearing, you're selecting it because of not only just the function, but also because of the aesthetics and how it feels and everything else.
Exactly.
And that's like I said, you know, something that when you give the problem to someone who's only coming from it from the, oh, how cool would it be if my watch could make a phone call, then you're not gonna be able to penetrate the masses and get everyone to buy in. Right. I guess.
So my area has become user experience.
I love that. That's awesome.
Only I just bring everything that I have to the game.
That's so awesome. I love it. Like a secret weapon.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah. All of my experiences and all of my background and all of the things that make me very odd are also the things that make me really useful.
I love that. Because you definitely have like I think about this a lot because I think people get, as a society, we're talking about like mental health so much and like, how can I be happier in my job and how can I be more fulfilled and how can I feel like I have a purpose? And I think it's because like we're trying to just like cram everyone into some like certain box and not let anyone, not even not let them, but like we don't encourage people to like discover that like spark in them that makes them feel useful to society or whatever. And it's like, I could either...
That's interesting. So yeah, so almost a person's soul's purpose in life.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you mentioned that. So one of the companies that they're still getting started because I like working with startups.
Yep. That's the nature of it.
They're still getting started. However,
they're starting up.
Yeah. But they want to actually help women choose their fashion by discovering their soul's purpose, and to fashion themselves, or I said it best first, and to choose their clothing to suit that, to suit clothing and all sorts of things. I don't want to talk too much about it because they're still putting it together and I don't want to steal their secret sauce by talking about it. But they're awesome and they're going in a wonderful direction by actually thinking about it in those terms. And there's a medical company. Well, it's not a medical company. It's a health and wellness software company that is actually tackling some of these things.
Wow.
And it's not the soul's purpose, but it's to actually heal things without the purpose of greed and without the purpose of stealing people's privacy, which is one of the reasons that I'm totally behind it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because that's a big, like the asset of stealing people's privacy is pretty valuable these days.
I think it's extremely important to hold on to we've handed over so much, and since the overturn of net neutrality, I have gotten nothing but 1 to 4 emails on a daily basis from different apps and different services that I subscribe to saying, so we've changed our terms of agreement, here are our new ones. And I'm like, oh God, I don't even need to read this. I can only imagine what I've already signed up for. So okay,
you're already deep in the rabbit hole. You can't can't take it back.
My main thing is I'm not going to contribute to that as much as possible. I'm going to continue to try to let people hold on to as much of their privacy as they possibly can, because we do need to have a certain amount of who we are and figuring that out for ourselves.
Do you think privacy is dead? Like, is there any putting it back in Pandora's box? Like we've already released so much, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's dead.
Yeah. Totally dead.
I don't.
Is it scary or is it like sad or, because I think in some regards, you look at, we want to look at something with like fondness of the past, like, oh, how romantic, like a book or something.
But you can't be attached to the past.
Exactly.
And it's arguable on both sides. The fact that we have allowed so much information about ourselves and about our choices and habits and lives open to almost like open source, let's say. Pretty much, yeah. It has allowed information to be known such that it sparks further creativity and further evolution and further ingenuity to happen, further industry to happen. Things are being discovered and devised and engineered because we have this information now. And it's making our lives supposedly better. Yeah. In a lot of ways, it truly is. Like one thing in particular that comes to my mind is like health data. Like I'm a big believer that like if my health data could potentially like help someone, like I would want that to be out there, but I don't want it to necessarily be able to be traced back to me as like an individual. Right. You know what I mean? Right. You want to be able to say, you want to be a statistic that helps in an overall study, but you don't want the insurance companies to be tracking you and saying, but you didn't work out on these 4 days. How we're going to change your premiums.
Exactly. And I think, yep, and that's very true. Like I think these changes that are happening, because I mean, we're in the midst of one of the craziest times ever in human history ever. Like there's no other time like this. It's pretty insane. Like
Well, in 20 years, they're going to say the same thing.
Exactly. I know.
That's why it's so great to be alive now.
I know. And there's nuances that go with every part of history.
And we get to choose, and we get to define it, and we get to sculpt it. And that's another reason I want to be on that edge.
Yeah.
Or is at least be a voice, a person at the table, do what I can.
That's really cool.
As much as I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because, like, I think that because we do still have like one foot in the past, one foot in the future, like there's no way to like separate that from ourselves, but the future generations aren't going to have that nostalgia for those other things.
They don't know what a rotary phone was, and I don't miss it.
No.
I don't miss it.
Yeah, but it is kind of like quaint to like look back fondly on those types of things. Like it's, oh, remember when we had to do that? That was, whatever.
But you know what I do think is important as far as, I don't even want to call it nostalgia. Kids playing outside, that can't go away.
No, I agree. Because that's real life.
Yeah.
You learn things in the outdoors that you can't learn in a virtual world.
I don't want to encourage people to grow up and live solitary lives.
Well, I think it's part of our kind of like primal nature. Like we do get kind of depressed when we are not exposed to that.
We are social creatures.
Definitely.
And I want to do as much as I can to encourage us to continue to communicate with each other the way you and I are now, as well as to look at the world as a global living organism, which goes back to my marine biology and all of that stuff, which is a little campaign that I've got in the back of my head
that
awesome. I want to do.
Back burner from childhood.
Well, no, actually, it's one of the reasons that I left my last job.
Really?
I wanted to make Vanity Fair style PSAs. I want to move what we have in the column called should into the column called want. There's a way to do this. It's just retraining our brains. I mean, when I was studying philosophy, I really wanted to make documentary films to help people think and reason for themselves.
That's important.
Yeah.
People don't do that enough.
Right. And I'm not going to say that I am always somebody who does that for herself.
No.
But I'm constantly looking at myself saying, okay, I got to get better at this. I got to get better at this.
As long as you're recognizing that, I think that's kind of the most important thing, because no one's perfect, obviously, but as long as you're constantly trying to be a better version of yourself or trying to get to a different level, I think that the trying is the most important part, not even necessarily the achieving, because like I said, no one's perfect,
And working at it.
Exactly.
Working at
exactly.
it. I'm told that trying is not necessarily the best word.
Yeah. There's do and do not.
There we go. Exactly.
Yoda.
You got it.
Can't take credit for that one. But no, it's very fascinating. This time of, like you said, privacy being dead, and
I don't like to think of it as dead. Nothing's ever really dead.
Okay. Privacy as we knew it.
Think about it like this. You can split an atom and split an atom and split an atom, and it's never really going to completely go away, right?
Yep.
Somebody out there is going to write to you and say, well, actually, so I'm sure I'll be corrected. But that's the best analogy that I can come up with right now.
I see what you mean there. And I think also, like, it's not dead, but it's like, I think it's
ever diminishing.
Yeah. And it's also the best time to be a good person. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
Like, if you're a shitty individual and you're out there doing terrible things in secret, I mean, in the media,
you can do it.
You can do it, but
let's keep encouraging people to be good. Is that what you're saying?
No, totally. That is what I'm encouraging, because I mean, I like to think of myself as I don't necessarily believe in like karma of the like, religious sense, like the, whatever you might call it, but I believe in the like what goes around comes around principle, Like even just earlier, I was in Whole Foods and the lady, I asked her a question and she goes, "I don't work here." And I was just like, well, I was about to ask you where the coffee was, and your little sample thing was for coffee. So maybe if you would have been nice to me, I would have tried your coffee, and maybe I would have bought it.
Did you say that?
No, but I thought it. I thought it because I'm like, wow, like what a like why do you have to be a jerk?
Unnecessary.
Yeah, why do you have to be an unnecessary jerk? You could have literally just told me, hey, I'm sorry, I don't work here, I don't know. But I wasn't even asking you, where is the this? I was just asking you where I get the freaking hot coffee. Everyone that walks into the store knows where that is.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I just believe in like being nice and all that, like trying to help people, trying to whatever. It might not pay off right then, it might not whatever, but I just think being a good person pays off, you know? And what goes around comes around.
Totally. So, so it seems like, gosh, you've just hit a couple different points, and I'm sorry, my brain just went. So, homelessness is a huge deal here in Los Angeles, especially in downtown.
Definitely.
And on a daily basis, I wake up and I that's part of my world.
You have to, you're interacting with homelessness on a daily basis.
Yes. And I hear it, and it's
whether
all
you choose to or not.
Correct. So it turns out that 3 of the projects that I'm working on right now, hopefully are on the side going to help with homelessness, which I'm very excited about. One of the things that's become a big topic amongst my friends and I is the fact that the one thing that's really starting to be missing in our culture is empathy. And then I read an article this morning about the woman who's overseeing the fashion integration. I'm not getting the title exactly right, and I'm not checking my phone, so forgive me, over at Google. And she's working currently on the VR side of things.
Very cool.
And she called them empathy machines. Now, how interesting is that? That just made me think, because you can when you're actually using a VR headset, you can put somebody in the position of what it might be like to experience homelessness, what it might be like to experience mental illness, what it might be. Right? I mean, we've been looking for all of these uses for VR beyond the gaming position to actually help us to empathize with each other and to then again look at ourselves less as us and them and more as a collective, and as a society help each other and be one. I know it's all like ooey gooey that I'm starting to sound it.
No, but it makes total sense, because when you for living in downtown LA, there's so many people. You're probably passing that person on the street. You're never going to see them again. So why would you smile at them, or why would you say something nice or whatever? Because they're never going to see you again. You're never going to see them again. It doesn't matter.
To experience we all live on stories. To be able to use a VR headset to understand the story. I mean, we've had film for a long time. This offers us to actually be in the position of that person.
That's incredible. And once you experience VR on a real level, like I actually had a woman on my podcast who works for a VR company in Atlanta that helps companies create experiences that aren't in the traditional gaming sense. I got to try their backpack VR kit that's basically a PC backpack. So you're completely untethered. There's no wires connecting you to anything except for the backpack. And I had a headset on, I had the thing on, and I was able to walk around in this virtual space and pick things up. It was insane. Thinking back on that experience, it felt like I was in a different place. It literally felt, after about 5 or 10 minutes, I felt like I was in another world, and it tripped me out. I did that, and then I did the podcast with her, and the whole time I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was insane.
Ooh, neat.
It was actually crazy. And in the intro and outro, I think I kind of touched on that I was that was the craziest thing. Because I'd done the whole, phone in the Google Cardboard and, all that. And that's really cool. But once you're in that, immersive thing, it was insane. I just thinking about it right now, it kind of, it takes me back to that feeling. And I can only imagine what it would be like to be in this, what is it like to be homeless situation, or what is it like to be in a third world country situation, or what is it like to be, Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street situation, or whatever. Live out your fantasies.
Top of Sunset to the bottom of downtown.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That is really, really crazy. It's pretty insane. And Yeah, and it seems like we're just in the beginning. Like you said, it's like, what are we going to do with VR besides gaming?
Right.
And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so I read that article and it made me, when you said just being a good person, it made me think of empathy. And I'd read this article. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's super awesome.
I just love that they relabeled it empathy machines.
I love that. That's so cool. And have you seen the video of Mark Zuckerberg, like in the thing where they were like, oh my gosh, it's so cringy. He's like with this other executive from Facebook and they're talking about like the effects of the floods in Puerto Rico. And they're like,
tell me.
There's like this 360 camera truck that's like going through and seeing all the devastation of these things.
Okay.
And Mark and this lady are talking about it like it's a theme park. They're like, oh wow, look over there. Wow, that guy is hurt. Or like what, like it was so like detached from reality and creepy. Like it's so bad. Like people watching it are like, is this guy crazy? Like these people had their like lives destroyed and he's talking about it like it's some like cool thing. Like, oh wow. It was honestly creepy. Like it was really weird.
Well, it's insensitive.
It's very, very insensitive because this was real. It was literally driving through the devastation of these areas and they were like, oh wow, I think that guy's getting water out of the
And the
thing
fact that this is available as a video for you to watch.
Right, I think they probably deleted it, but someone
hopefully
uploaded it again because it was so like unsensitive and whatever. And people have roasted him completely over that. We don't need to go into all that, but
right.
It is. There's like two ends of that spectrum. You can view it as like a novelty, or you can view it as a thing that will actually help you,
right,
feel something different. I don't know.
Well, hopefully, I'm going to do what I can to bring about the best. I mean, what I believe to be the best possible world,
exactly.
Best possible outcomes. I like to sleep well at night, and I want to leave the world better than I'm finding it. I mean, it's pretty darn good, and I'm glad to be here now. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to be a woman even 50 years ago.
Yep.
I'm grateful to be a woman now.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So what are you working on right now? I'm sure you can't talk about some things, but what are the things that are like...
Yeah, I texted people before I talked to you, and I didn't get enough responses.
Gotcha. Well, if you can't talk about the stuff that you're working on,
there's a really cool health and wellness software thing that I'm working with. We're going to start in June.
Very important.
I've got lots of reading to do before I get started. I'm helping somebody right now. He wants to implement agile structures into different companies, and I'm helping him put together his product portfolio. That's not very exciting, but it's still hopeful. I have a really neat project. I have a woman who's a publicist and a manager. Her name's Anna Fusan. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And she's amazing. And there's this guy that I met when I went to the Wearable Technology Conference a few years ago. And he gave a talk on conductive polymers. And I hunted this guy down because I have had this idea in my head for a couple years. And I was like, he's the guy that can help me do this. And finally we started talking. And we're not yet to the point of doing exactly what I want, but we came up with something else that is so appropriate and so relevant to our society right now, which can be first an installation and then installed into a VR headset, that will help with us understanding each other's political and not just political. It's not just really political.
Like beliefs.
It's to help people understand that everyone has a different perspective, but then when we communicate to each other, if we just communicate to each other, there is common ground and you can change the world around you.
Definitely.
So very excited to be working with her on that.
That's so awesome. And
if Mark is hearing this for the first time, I am moving with this. I am not giving up on our project. So fabulousness there. And I've designed something that goes along with that, which is in the fashion realm, which I'm very excited about. Beyond that, I have a Radiohead. I photographed and wrote articles for the In Rainbows tour of Radiohead a few years ago, and was recently put together with a gentleman who is he's curating the shows over at the Anaheim Performing Arts Center, and we're going to do a show of my In Rainbows tour, as well as some of the other shows that I photographed when I was the West Coast photographer for L Acoustics. And I'm so excited about it. It's going to be a beautiful gala. It starts on June 9th and it'll run through the 29th. It's very quick. So
that's awesome. Where is it going to be?
At the Anaheim Performing Arts Center.
Very cool.
Space 252.
Very
252. Cool. It's very, very cool. They're looking at, they want to be a space for bringing about and encouraging new artists, as well as intermediately or moderately established artists, to really show their work, both in the Orange County area, but also the surrounding areas. It's a really neat space. I'm going to be checking it out on Friday officially and meeting everyone. So I'm just so excited to do it. It was a wonderful experience to be able to do that tour and to write those articles. And interestingly enough, my gift to myself when I finished that whole thing was I bought my first iPhone.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't allow myself to do it until I had finished all that, and I used the money that I earned from the last article to buy my first iPhone.
What were you using before?
A flip phone. No. It was like a Samsung, or maybe it was the Razr. It was one of those.
Wait, when was this?
I guess that was 2009 or 2008. I think it was 2008.
Okay. I was thinking this was like but still.
The In Rainbows tour was a while ago. I think it was 2008.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's still really crazy, though.
I know that they're so ingrained in our culture and our lives now.
That seems
to think
nuts.
Of a flip phone.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool, though. Very awesome.
Yeah, I like to treat myself with the next version. I had friends who already had them. And I was like,
of course,
I'm not doing it until I finish.
Hey, that's awesome, though.
Yeah, but
that's good. Having like rewards for yourself is important, I think.
But when I finished shooting Radiohead, I remember I looked around. I was like, it's never going to get any better than this. I got to party with them.
Oh my gosh.
I sat with the sound guys and got to know them.
That's so cool. I've always wanted a tour with an artist or something like that. Like, that would be just so fun, I feel like. And it's obviously tons of hard work, but I mean, I just
so
feel
rewarding.
Like, yeah.
But I didn't go through the entire tour.
But still.
All the ones that I did, and I got to, I was interviewing them for their, both on their green aspect of who they are, and found out that they are just as true to their word as they purport to be.
That's
they
awesome.
choose their venues based on the mass transit systems and not based on single-use parking and things like that.
Yeah.
They carry all of their own dinnerware and everything, so they don't use plastics, nothing. When they go to different cities, they need people to come and help tune everything. They have select people in every city, and they hire the people in those cities.
That's really cool.
It's very cool. It was wonderful to learn, and I got to read white papers on the sound systems because they've always been very loyal to L Acoustics since the very beginning of their careers. So, and I was working for them, so I learned all about the sound stuff. And since I studied sound as part of sound in the the cochlear and all this stuff in
sound is one of those things in media that people don't even think about, but it's like the most important thing. Like, if you're watching like a video that sucks and you don't know why, it's like probably because the sound is bad. At least in my opinion, like from what I've found. You know what? Sound quality and pixels. It's very important. If you want to see something properly, you need the best resolution possible. Yeah. Because the darker something gets, you need to see the little bits of light. So that's to do with your resolution. I'm sure somebody will correct me, but pixels, all these things, the whole algorithmic combination. Same thing with sound. The warmth of tonality and all of the different measures. Definitely. And people that are audiophiles right now are like, he's using what type of microphone? This is bullshit. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, and I have a lot of friends that are audiophiles. My boyfriend's a former musician, so I'm sure he'll correct me later too. Oh, it's all good. You know what? I think, and the audiophiles are screaming right now, but there's definitely a point of diminishing returns when it comes to that stuff, I feel like, with podcasts. because I think like some people would be appalled at the setup that I'm using. They're like, you blah, 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 blah. It's not professional.
I think it's quite admirable. I love it.
Yeah.
It looks
it's
great
very portable. It's very portable and practical. And
he
it's
has a small
inexpensive.
backpack. He has little lavalier mics on us. Wonderful Tascam setup.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. But I was going to say, I'm running out of my 90 minutes.
No, totally.
And I don't want to get towed by Whole
don't
Foods.
Do that.
The hipster Whole Foods people are going to get mad at me. That's true. I was going to say, has anything ever happened to people getting... What are they going to tell me if I'm over the time?
I have no idea. Again,
either way.
I've heard no feedback, neither positive nor negative. So hopefully you'll be fine.
Whole Foods, if you're listening to this, I did purchase 2 items in your store, in your lovely store, and please do not tow my vehicle, and it's not my vehicle, so I will be very upset if it's towed. But I think it'll be just fine.
Thank you so much for coming and trudging through the traffic and coming and chatting with me. I feel like I didn't get to know you very well, though.
It's all good. I was going to say, I feel like we could have done like a 10-hour podcast. Like, there's so much we can talk about.
Okay.
So next time in LA, we got to do another one.
Yeah. Oh, I would love that. You
Seriously,
really mean it?
I really do mean it, because you're super interesting, and I feel like we could talk for hours and hours.
No,
and hours,
I do too, and I still didn't know that much about you, and you're sitting on my couch. I talk too much.
Hey, it's okay. That's actually one thing that I worked on, because in the beginning, I am a talker. In the beginning episodes, I would talk way too much, and I would listen to myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like, you asked this person to be on your podcast, and then you didn't even let them talk. You're like interrupting them and stuff. So I think I've learned, hopefully gotten better.
You're doing a great job, as far as
you.
I'm concerned, because I need to know much more about you.
Good.
He has red hair, and so do I.
There we go.
That's
definitely
so far as the visuals are concerned, we're on a par.
There we go. Very nice. Well,
thank you again,
Arden. Thank you for being on the show. Also, if people want to like follow you and stuff, where can they find you?
Instagram, it's at Arden Ash. I also have an Olivia project. If you've ever heard of Olivia the Pig, Ian Falconer's Olivia the Pig. You can follow the artwork that I've done. I recreate masterpieces in Illustrator so that it can be gigantic, because they're all vector based. I'm not taking the original artworks. I'm actually recreating the original artworks and putting Olivia into them. So Ed Hopper, all these wonderful people, Picasso. Check it out. It's at Olivia in Focus. And I have a website, I have 2, ardenash.com and ardenashphotography.com. And again, check out Space 252 for the Radiohead show. If the podcast makes it up there while it's still going. Yeah, I definitely think it will, because I'm trying to get on a roll. I've been on a break because of this trip. I haven't uploaded in like a couple weeks. So that's true. He hiked the Grand Canyon. I did. I didn't go like rim to rim. I didn't go to the bottom, but I did. I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of what you did. I haven't done it. Yeah, it was pretty intense. It was without a doubt the most intense, as far as exhausting hike I've ever done, because it was just like uphill the whole time. No downhill. So your quads have worked out. Yes, indeed. Well done. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you. And I hope you found it interesting, moderately. Oh, I'm sure they did. Or if they made it to the end. Oh, yeah. Thank you for coming to the end. Like, if they're listening to your voice right now, they probably enjoyed it, so. Bravo. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye. Boom. Wow, I just re-listened to that episode on a bus driving from Portugal to Sevilla a few days ago, and I loved it. Seriously, Arden is so lovely to talk to, and I know the next time I'm out in LA, I will definitely make it a point to do a follow-up episode with her. Kind of sad, but Arden's Radiohead photography is no longer on display. That's my bad on getting this episode out so freaking late, but you can still check out a lot of her portfolio on her website, ardenashphotography.com. And please, if you enjoyed this episode or you got something from it, make sure to shoot Arden or I a message letting us know, and I'm sure that will go a long way, especially if you send it to either of us. I would appreciate it. I'm sure she would too. If you enjoyed this episode, which I'm sure you did since you listened to the whole thing, I have a couple of other episodes I know that you will really enjoy as well. So first of all, if you love hearing from other women working on the cutting edge of technology, you should definitely listen to episode 48 with Annie Eaton. I actually briefly talked about her in this episode, but Annie is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Futurist
They are a future technology company that focuses on virtual and augmented reality development. She also serves on TAG's digital media board, and she also runs a 900-member VR interest group in Atlanta. And Annie and I discussed the future of VR, its potential applications in the business and consumer world, and all kinds of other fun stuff. I know you'll love it. Again, that was episode 48 with Annie Eaton. And another episode I know you'll love is episode 58 with one of my best friends in the whole world, Katia Sarmiento. And she's not an artist, but she's a badass digital entrepreneur and systems coach. And basically, she helps 6- and 7-figure digital small businesses scale up with the right systems and operations and technology. She's amazing, one of the smartest people that I know. And actually, at the time that we recorded this podcast, it was one of the first times we'd ever met in person, if not the first time we officially met in person. I think it was. And since then, we've become like best friends. It's been awesome. But anyways, I'm going through withdrawals from not seeing her for like 5 weeks. So when I come back, I think I'm going to record another episode with her. So go listen to that episode so you can be fully prepared for the sequel. Okay, next up, we've got episode 95 with model and actress Jamie Thornton. And while I was in LA, I was able to meet up with Jamie, someone who I've been connected with on social media before her massive rise to fame as a model and actress. She's been featured in Maxim, Sports Illustrated, and I think she also has the record for the guest with the most followers on Instagram. Before, it was held by Umama Cabria with 107,000 followers, and Jamie has amassed 156,000 followers and counting. That number probably will go up by the time this episode goes up. But recently she moved to LA on a whim, hanging on by a shoestring budget and a dream. Shoestring Budget and a Dream. That's like a good album name. But she really has just climbed the social media ladder through networking. And during our conversation, we talked about how she actually makes money on Instagram, dealing with brands and sponsors. We waded through the toxic sludge that is a proper Instagram model's DMs, and what her friends and family think about her newfound success in the over-sexualized world of modeling. That episode is coming out soon, so stay tuned. If you want to support the show, best way to do that is to go to iTunes, rate it 5 stars. It really helps me out a lot. Also, the podcast is now available on Spotify. I don't believe there's ratings on Spotify, but I'm not a Spotify user. But if you are a Spotify user or you know a Spotify user, it would be awesome if you could tell them about how cool this podcast was. Obviously, you enjoyed it. And if you know someone else who would enjoy this episode, it would really go a long way. Just sharing it word of mouth. That really helps out with the growth of the show. If you want to follow me, you can go to my social media accounts. You can find them all on my website, andrewdeitch.com. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for dealing with me being so MIA on this trip. It's been amazing. I've been gone for over 5 weeks. Coming home in a week or so. We're going to Budapest next, then Vienna, then probably home, maybe a quick stop in Germany, not sure. But you'll be hearing from me very soon. So thank you guys for listening, and I will see you guys next time.
He's like, oh, I'll join you in a minute. I'm playing chess with somebody in Australia. I was like, what are you talking about? You're lying.